Rome was once called the greatest city in the world, but most ordinary people wouldn't have survived there for long. It commanded armies, controlled continents, decided the fate of millions, and still couldn't protect its own citizens. So what did it really mean to live inside the most powerful city on Earth? We were taught that Rome was magnificent, perfect roads, massive aqueducts, advanced laws, monumental architecture, the blueprint of civilization, order, discipline, progress. And that part is true. But there's another side you rarely see in the history books. The Rome of marble statues was real. The Rome of political speeches was real. The Rome of the streets, that was something else entirely. More than 1 million people packed into one city. No universal sanitation. No organized hospital system. No guaranteed safety. The largest city in the world didn't even have the infrastructure to support its own population. There was a sewer system, but it didn't reach everyone. Clean water flowed to some neighborhoods. In others, it simply pooled and stagnated. And when a city grows faster than its foundation, it starts turning against itself. Imagine waking up in Rome, not in a wealthy villa, but in a tall, unstable apartment building called an asterisk insula asterisk, 6 stories high, sometimes more, built quickly with cheap wood, clay, and shortcuts. Entire families crammed into a single room, children, animals, tools, everything in the same space. These buildings caught fire easily, and when flames started, they didn't meet firewalls, they met wood, wind, and panic. Fires weren't rare. When they were over, all that remained was ash. No insurance, no guaranteed rebuilding, no second chance. And fire wasn't the only threat. Buildings collapsed in the middle of the night, people asleep, and the ceiling just gave way. No warning, no time to react. Now walk down the narrow stairs into the street. Constant noise, merchants shouting, metal clanging, animals roaming, carts blocking the way. And the smell. It wasn't occasional, it was constant. Sweat, rotting food, animal blood from butchered livestock, standing water. Not all waste was collected. A lot of it was simply thrown out of windows, especially at night. Walking through the streets required constant awareness. Something could fall on you at any moment. But the visible dangers were just distractions. The real threat was invisible. Rome wasn't devastated by what people could see, but by what they couldn't. Disease, infection, contamination. Public fountains were shared by thousands. Animals moved freely. Organic waste ran through the streets. A fever would start in one district and days later appear in another. No clear explanation. No effective treatment. No antibiotics. And there was something even more dangerous. Rome was connected by roads to the entire empire. Everything traveled fast, including disease. The same infrastructure that brought wealth also brought death. Outbreaks seemed to appear out of nowhere. People didn't understand why. They just knew it was happening. But there was something even more brutal than disease. Rome didn't hide violence, it celebrated it. The Colosseum wasn't an exception, it was routine. Public executions, fights to the death, crowds screaming for blood, children watched, families watched. Suffering was entertainment. And here's the detail almost no one talks about. These events weren't just amusement, they were control. When food was scarce, the games increased. When social tension rose, more spectacles were organized. While the crowd stared at the arena, they stopped looking at the Senate. While they cheered the combat, they forgot the rising price of bread. Fear and entertainment worked together, and together they numbed the population. But not everyone was in the stands. Many were in chains. Rome was built on slavery, captured in war, bought, sold, replaced when they got sick. They built the city, cleaned it, carried its weight, served its elite. For them, Rome wasn't the most powerful city in the world. It was an open-air prison. So the inevitable question emerges. How could a city so advanced rely on such a fragile foundation? Overcrowding, mass slavery, unequal infrastructure, normalized violence, constant disease, all coexisting with marble and gold. Rome looked eternal, but it lived under constant pressure. The bigger it grew, the more dependent it became on forces it couldn't fully control. Grain came from North Africa and Egypt. If a shipping route failed, famine followed. And famine in a city of over 1 million people isn't just shortage. It's desperation, it's violence. Rome didn't produce enough to sustain itself. It depended on the empire. The empire depended on military force. The military depended on money. The money depended on expansion. It was a machine that had to keep growing to keep functioning. And when growth slowed, the cracks began to show. A city runs on trust. Trust in government, trust in currency, trust in security. When rumors spread, they spread fast. Talk of invasions, plagues, food shortages. And when collective fear rises, behavior changes. People hoard, people flee, people riot. Rome was powerful, but emotionally volatile. Violence wasn't confined to the arena. It was always one step away from exploding in the streets. The more the empire tried to control everything, the more it relied on repression, on fear, and constant fear doesn't create stability. It creates tension waiting to snap. So we return to the original question. How could the most powerful city in the world be so dangerous to the people living inside it? Because external power doesn't guarantee internal stability. Rome was monumental but fragile at its core, dependent on slavery, dependent on imports, dependent on military expansion, dependent on public distraction. While the Colosseum shined, apartment buildings burned. While the Senate delivered speeches, disease spread. While generals conquered new lands, ordinary people struggled to survive one more winter. Rome looked invincible because it projected strength. But projecting strength isn't the same as being structurally sound. When expansion stopped, when crises piled up, when trust began to erode, the giant started to crack. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Living in the greatest city of the ancient world didn't mean living better. It meant living under constant threat. Fire, disease, hunger, violence, slow, silent collapse. Rome was a historical marvel. But for most people, it was daily survival. And maybe the most unsettling question isn't about Rome at all. It's about us. How many modern cities look solid, but hide similar fragilities? How many systems seem invincible right up until they stop growing? Rome didn't fall in a single day. It was weakened slowly by the very structure that made it great. And that's the part of the story almost no one emphasizes.